agree, a lot of the imagery was very similar. So I remember when, like, the first day of the Palisades fire, I could see from my apartment window and on social media, seeing people like leaving their car and just like running away. I was like, oh my God, this looks like the images that I've been looking at for a year making the film. And so it's unfortunate that I think this film will become more relatable to people as time goes on. After the LA fires, people reached out to us and told us that they had packed a go bag and were ready to evacuate when the LA fires were here because they had seen our film. By raising money, and we have a goal of raising $10,000 for organizations that are on the ground still helping survivors, and so we're at 34% now. The second is reducing the stigma around mental health and disasters, because I was hearing from my family that a lot of people were struggling in isolation, especially after people were not staying in hotels anymore. They were like spread out over the island and no longer near family and friends and neighbors. And so also how Keha had mentioned, a lot of like AAPI communities, I think there's like this element of pride and it's still kind of taboo to talk about mental health. And so I really wanted to cover that topic just to show that it is okay to ask for help. And then the third was encouraging climate resilience in the form of disaster preparedness. It's encouraging people to pack a go bag, have an evacuation plan, get to know your neighbor, because like we didn't have this in the film, but my family left when they did because their neighbor came and knocked on their door several times and was like, you have to leave now. And so those are just things that like we had thought about beforehand. And another helpful like thing to include, because a lot of them, I think a lot of times, like Nancy had mentioned, we underestimate kids, but they can actually do a lot. And the training that they were doing is called CERT, Community Emergency Response Team, and actually they have that training in, I think, every city in the US. And so you can actually sign up to do that, and you learn things like CPR, fire suppression, medical triage. And so, yeah, I think that's something that I would have liked to have included. International Film Festival, and I was like, oh, well, we're gonna roll out community screenings, and we really just want to get the message out there about this film and what happened there. And so she was like, oh, maybe I can screen it at Fuller. And I was like, that would be great. And so this is like an idea that started back in November.
Okay. Well, some things have happened here since then, and I wonder, have you screened it yet in a place that's experienced? I mean, like my experience watching it was in the visuals and everything else, the parallels to what we've all gone through in the last few months are striking. Have you screened it in a community that's experienced something similar at this point?
We did screen it at the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival, and so there were some people there who had been directly impacted. And yeah, I agree, a lot of the imagery was very similar. So I remember when, like, the first day of the Palisades fire, I could see from my apartment window and on social media, seeing people like leaving their car and just like running away. I was like, oh my God, this looks like the images that I've been looking at for a year making the film. And so it's unfortunate that I think this film will become more relatable to people as time goes on. We actually did have a preview event of our film in LA in September, and after the LA fires, people reached out to us and told us that they had packed a go bag and were ready to evacuate when the LA fires were here because they had seen our film. And so I just want more and more people to see it and be aware of the dangers of this kind of disaster moving forward.
So it's interesting because, you know, you could make a brochure, you could, you know, send an email campaign, but you made a film. And although it wasn't intentional, we had some audio issues at the beginning. And I'd seen it before, and what was interesting is it was pretty mesmerizing with just the music and image. And it's not until you go to the, you know, the on-camera talking head kind of shots that you go, oh wait, they're not talking. But how did you think, so the first couple minutes we saw it, it was really all visuals and music, no voiceovers. And I was like, this is a really strikingly beautiful visual film. How did you think about it? I mean, you're wanting to express like an actual thing, hear the fires, I want people to be aware. But as a filmmaker, how did you think about that visually?
So just the visuals and music was not intentional. There was something wrong with it, but yes, you got to see it that way first. But I think after the disaster happened, I thought about how a lot of people would probably, who are not from Hawaii, would probably make films about this and try to sensationalize it and just really focus on just the destruction. But I think I wanted to show my family and just a very personal look into how people were impacted personally, and I wanted the audience to see their family and my family and really relate to them, and I wanted that to open people's hearts and minds, and so that's why I thought film was a good medium for this.
And you all have a chance to ask some questions here in just a minute. I'll ask just a couple more. Speaking of your family, a lot of really sort of power.
I think that was something I was very worried about going into making the film, was just like the ethics of it, because I obviously wanted to be more helpful than hurtful, and it's, you know, for a lot of them, it was asking them to retell the worst days of their lives. And so we actually, which normally documentary filmmakers don't do this, but we actually gave them the film, the final rough cut, and then let them, if there's anything in there that they didn't want, we let them take it out. And so I'm very glad that like my film team